What is up, Eagles? I'm Ian Lynch, and this is the first episode of our new segment, The Bench Mob, where we talk all things NBA. I'm here with
Jake Henning.
And our first segment is going to be 3-2 zone, where we talk about the three best games, two worst games. So let's get started. For our first game, we have the Trailblazers versus 76ers. Damian Lillard had 30 points, and Embiid had 35. What are your thoughts, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this Philadelphia team the whole year, they've been at the top of the East. Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, even the newly acquired guard Seth Curry, they've been playing together great all year. And that's why they're at the top of the East right now, because they've just been meshing so well. And especially with a new coach, Doc Rivers. He's put up a game plan that they can execute it well. And so I think it was a tough game, but Damian Lillard just continued to show his clutch genes. He's put up 30 in this game. He's just been playing well all year. Trailblazers haven't been playing so well, but Dame has been a bright spot on that team. So I think that he was a huge jolt for this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree 100%. And like you mentioned, Embiid dropped 35. Like, everyone's saying he has a real big shot this year of potentially winning MVP. And like, he's came out, scored 35 here. He's done it numerous times this season. And like you said, Doc Rivers has really made it easy for this team to gel and play well together, even though bringing in all those new pieces this year. So second game, we have the Pistons versus the Celtics, with the Pistons coming out on top.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game where these games happen all season, but the Celtics have been so inconsistent over the season that they've been in these close games where sometimes they don't always come out on top. And I mean, a big game for the rookie from Villanova, Saddiq Bey. I mean, put up 30 points, 10 of 12 shooting, and 7 from 3. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's quite a feat for your first season in the NBA, and against the Celtics, no less. But I mean, Jason Tatum still had 33 points, but just wasn't a great shooting night for him. 9 of 22 from the field. He shot 13 free throws, made 12 of them. But yeah, I mean, you see Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, these are the guys that have been consistent all season, just not getting some production from the bench and some of the guys in the starting lineup. So good win for the Pistons, and it's particularly good night for Saddiq Bey on shooting.
Yeah, tough night for the Celtics for sure. I mean, Jason Tatum is their best scorer, probably, arguably, next to Jaylen Brown. Like, they're the two top dogs on the team. But like you mentioned, it was a really cold night for Tatum. He just couldn't seem to get anything rolling. But that's when you would expect that traditional Celtics defense, which they're very well known for being aggressive and competitive, would have been able to bail them out. But like we mentioned, they didn't look that great against the Pistons. And Saddiq, like you mentioned, like, being a rookie and shooting 7 for 7 from 3, like,
yeah,
you can't do that as a Celtics defensive player. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that, just, you hear Boston Celtics, like, you think competitive, gritty, defensive-minded players, and they let the ball drop there.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have the Timberwolves versus the Raptors. So this one was interesting. All the Timberwolves starters were in double figures in this game, which is, I mean, basketball is a team sport, like everyone knows. Like, it's hard to win when you have one guy being a dominant scorer. So the fact that they had all of their starters in double figures is insane. What are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the last couple of games for the Timberwolves, even though they are 7-19, I think. Mm-hmm. You started to see some production. I mean, they got Karl-Anthony Towns back this week, which is huge for them. I mean, just like scoring presence, a rebounding presence, defensive presence. He's their overall best player on the team. So anytime you get a franchise player back like that, it's great. But you start to see some production from Anthony Edwards, the first pick in the draft this past year. He's starting to find his niche and really get going. And starting to get some points for them. But I mean, their whole like you said, their whole lineup was in double figures. Anytime you get production like that from your starting lineup, it's great. It gives a great motivation for your team. But the Raptors just couldn't hold on to this one. The starters really carried the team for them. I think four of them were almost at 20 points. Three of them were at 20 points. I think Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, and Siakam, I think, all had like 20 points. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they just couldn't get production from the bench, and you need those guys to step up in the crunch minutes to get you some. Even if you're putting up 5, 6 points, 7 points, that's going to help a team push you over the edge. So they just couldn't get that. That's what led to the loss.
Yeah, for sure. Like we're going to talk about it in the second part of the segment, but you mentioned bench production. It's huge. Like the starting five can only do so much for a team. So if you don't have, like, that's where games are won, is on defense, is in bench production, honestly, because like I said, the starting five can only do so much and carry the team so much. So that being said, we're going to get into the two worst games to kick it off. We have the Heat against the Clippers. So the Clippers were missing Kawhi, Paul George, and Beverly was out for rest. I mean, if I'm a Heat player and I see like someone's out for rest, like I take that as a slap in the face. Like that means like they do not respect you. So your thoughts on this game and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean that the Heat culture is, we want to play, we want to come at you hard, we're going to come at you fast. They don't rest guys. They're not like the rest of the league. They want to win every game. So I mean, they just haven't been playing well lately, and I think this game summed up what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks. Is they're not playing Miami Heat basketball. And I mean, Jimmy Butler still had a 30-point triple-double, but they're just not getting the production. They're not showing up on defense like they did last season to get them to the finals. And it's a little bit of an embarrassing loss for the Heat, not having, with the Clippers not having their two best players and essentially getting scored on by a bunch of guys that coming off the bench. So bad loss for the Heat. Maybe this can, kickstart them, get them going. But I guess you want to call it a good win for the Clippers.
I guess. You mentioned the Heat culture, and I mean, I just noticed like this team, if Jimmy Butler's not on the court, it's like they forget how to play basketball. Like if he's not in the game, they don't know what they're doing. For example, Marcus Morris came out and dropped 32 points on us. Name another team in the league where he comes out and drops 32.
Yeah, you look at Marcus Morris, the guy who has been a veteran on a number of teams in the NBA, and he's a guy that's going to get you, 10 to 12 points a night. Guy's coming off the bench. He's a bench production guy who's going to come off, give you a push in the middle of games, at the end of games. But I mean, to let the guy come out and put up 32 points, I just don't think that that he can let that happen, because it's not good production for them. So
I feel like lately any team the Heat plays against, like they automatically make that like normal average players, they make them look like NBA superstars, and it's evident in that game with Morris dropping 32. All right, so next up we had the Bucks versus the Thunder. The Thunder came out on top, which if you were to look at that, normally you would probably have the Bucks as your pick. So walk us through what happened.
Yeah, I mean, this is another game where the bench is coming into play. Thunder had their best player out, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And like the Clippers, they had a bunch of guys who usually play on the bench in their starting lineup. And they came out and they produced. Giannis, he still had a triple-double, 24 points, 17 rebounds, 10 assists, which is, and not to say a calm night for Giannis, but
it's just another normal night.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at the bench production from the Oklahoma City. They had guys, like we talked about earlier, getting those 6-7 points. Mm-hmm. That's an extra push. I mean, they only won the game by, I think, like 5 points, 6 points. But that's what's going to help, get you over the edge, is those 5-6 points. So yeah, I mean, a great win for the Thunder. I think, the the Bucks again was what we're talking about the whole season last season is they're a great team in the East, but can they be a contender when it comes time to play these big teams in the playoffs? And I just don't think that they are. So I'm interested to see how they play the rest of the season out.
All right, so next up we have the next part of the segment. We have best player of the week and rookie of the week and games coming up that me and Jake are looking forward to. So first off, for player of the week, we have Luka. Jake, walk everyone through why we thought this was the best choice.
Yeah, I mean, Luka's been playing out of his mind the whole season, looking like an MVP candidate early on. But he had 2 games of 40-plus points this past week. One game against New Orleans Pelicans where he had his career high 46 points, and then one game on Sunday where he had 44 in a close loss to Portland. Mavs haven't been playing well, but Luka's been the one bright spot throughout the whole season, really, as he just continues to play well. I mean, you see him; it seems so effortless in his play that it's so beautiful to watch how he plays, how he facilitates to his teammates, how he scores the ball. But I mean, this is a guy who you're talking about is in the top 5, maybe 10 best players in the NBA right now. So yeah, I mean, gotta give it to Luka.
So next up, we have rookie of the week. We chose LaMelo Ball. He's been one of the top rookies so far this season. He's been super fun to watch. His vision is insane. His scoring, at first, he didn't start off too hot. Like, he was struggling a bit from the 3 and like getting the ball to drop. But the last few weeks, he's really been able to turn up the heat with his scoring. Especially this past week, he had a game where he dropped 17, had like 8 assists and roughly around like 8 rebounds as well. Like, he's doing great for a rookie, which is especially hard to do in this league where you have people who have been playing for like 10, 15 years. Look at LeBron, he's in year 17. He's putting up crazy numbers, but definitely fun to see the young guys coming and balling out. Next up, we have our top picks for games this upcoming week. First up, we have Brooklyn versus the Lakers. Jake, what is your pick?
I think this is gonna be probably the best game of the week, honestly. I mean, 2 top teams where 5+ stars are combined between both teams. But I think I'm gonna have to give the edge to the Lakers. I mean, I just can't. It's hard for me to doubt LeBron. I mean, he showed him time and time again that he just doesn't want to stop. He wants to keep going. Wants to win another championship. I think it's all dependent on if they're able to get Kevin Durant back. But I still think that the Lakers are too good. LeBron's too good. I think Anthony Davis he's injured right now. But I just gotta give the edge to LeBron and the Lakers. I can't doubt LeBron, so I'm gonna go with LA this week.
All right. I'm actually gonna disagree with you here. I think. Like you mentioned, it depends if Kevin Durant is back or not. But my only reason for being iffy on the Nets is, like you mentioned, LeBron, obviously, and what he's been able to do, the numbers he's putting up is crazy. But for me, it comes down to if Brooklyn's offense can outpace the Lakers' defense, which I think they might be able to do just with how fast they are. And like LeBron isn't everybody. He's just one guy on the team, so like he can't stop everything. Next up, we have Utah versus the Clippers. Who do you have?
It's hard for me to doubt a team like Utah right now, but I think that if Kawhi and PG are playing this game and they're not resting, I think I'm gonna go with the Clippers. I mean, they've been playing such great basketball right now. So is Utah. And, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, all these guys are working together, and they're playing some great basketball. I think 19-1 over the last 20 games, which is unreal. But I mean, we're still talking about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, 2 of the best players in the league. And like we were talking about earlier, their bench, Lou Williams, some of these guys coming off the bench, Zubac, Marcus Morris, who had 32 in the win over the Heat. These guys are gonna push them to win the game. And so that's why I gotta give the edge to the Clippers.
Insane, like you mentioned, 19-1 over the last 20. I think they have like the top, like out of the top 5 3-point shooters in the league, like 3 of them are on Utah right now. It's Ingles, Donovan Mitchell, and I can't recall the third one, but I know they have 3 out of the 5 right now, which is insane. So they've been shooting lights out. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Utah in this one game that we think is gonna be super exciting this week. Is 2 repeating teams from previous games, but it is what it is. We have Brooklyn versus the Clippers. Who do you have?
Oh man, it's tough. I mean, this is 2 offensive powerhouses. I think I'm gonna go with the Clippers again. Like you talked about earlier, with all the offenses and defenses, I think that Brooklyn's offense has to be better than the Clippers' defense, and the Brooklyn's defense has to be good against the Clippers, because what we've talked about all year is how Brooklyn's defense has been one of the worst in the league, and Kawhi and PG are looking to fill those gaps, get to the basket against a defense that's not really contended well against the Stars this year. So I think I'm going to go with the Clippers, contingent upon Brooklyn's defense playing a lot better this week. So,
yeah. To wrap things up, yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you this week. This game, I have the Clippers as well. Like we mentioned, just Brooklyn's defense. They got rid of Allen, their center, in that trade to bring in Harden, which was he was like their only rim protector pretty much. So I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do to get someone like James Harden, I guess. But the price to pay is now having the league's worst defense. And then you look at the Clippers, where their bench is productive, their starting 5 is productive. You have Kawhi, who's arguably one of the best defensive players in the league. And then you also have Paul George, who's been playing a lot better this year compared to last year. Like you mentioned, they're going to be attacking the hoop, especially without an interior presence that Brooklyn lacks. So I think it's going to be the Clippers that game.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that the Clippers' offense and their bench are better suited for an offensive powerhouse like Brooklyn. So I'm excited to see that game.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Ian Lynch, and I'll see you guys next time.